In this video, we're going to learn how to calculate the shaded area inside shapes, where part of the space inside the shape is missing, has been cut out from the shape. Before we start that, please pause the video and do these examples. Pause the video while you do that, press play once you've done them. You should have now done these 4 examples, so let's go through them one by one. Please mark your work as I go through them. Question 1, calculate the area of a square of side length 5.8. So that means this side is 5.8 and this side is 5.8. So the area, which is the space inside a 2D shape, say that with me, area is the space inside a 2D shape. Area is, you should have said area is the space inside a 2D shape. Area is the space inside a 2D shape. So for the square, we do that by multiplying 5.8 and 5.8. Let's do that using gelosia. So there's my grid. Those are my diagonals. Do the times tables with me. 8 times 5, 40. 8 times 8, 64. 5 times 5, 25. 5 times 8, 40. Let's add the diagonals. 4, 6. 4 plus 5 plus 4 is 13. 2 plus 1 is 3. And then where did the decimal points go? So we go down from there, left from there, along the diagonal. So our final answer is 33.64. And what should the units be for area? Say your answer to the video now. You should have said centimeters squared. Okay, the next one is the area of this rectangle. So area is the space inside a 2D shape. So area is all this space inside the shape. Let's go right to the edges. So to do that, I need to multiply the length by the width, or the base times the height. So again, I'm going to need to use gelosia. This time I'm going to need a bigger grid. I'm going to need a 3 by 2 grid. Let's do the diagonals. So we've got 12.6, we've got 6.4. Let's do the times tables together. 6 times 6, 36. 6 times 4, 24. 2 times 6, 12. 2 times 4, 8. 1 times 6, 6. 1 times 4, 4. Let's add the diagonals. This one adds up to 4. What does the next diagonal add up to? Say your answer to the video. You should have said 16. What does the next diagonal add up to? Say your answer to the video. You should have said 10. What does the next diagonal add up to? Say your answer to the video. You should have said 8, and the next diagonal is just a 0. We then need to see where the decimal point goes. So we go down from there and left from there. Then we go along the diagonal. That's where the decimal point goes. So the answer to question 2 is 80.64. And then what are the units of area? Say your answer to the video. You should have said centimeters squared. Next, we need to do the area of this parallelogram. So the common mistake here would be to do 5 times 7. That's not right. It's not 5 times 7. Do the area of a parallelogram, you have to do base times height. So the area will be 7 times 4, which is 28 centimeters squared. And then finally, we have the area of the triangle. So that's going to be base times height over 2. But what is the base and what is the height? So what is the base of this triangle? Say your answer to the video now. You should have said the base is 6.3 centimeters. What is the height of this triangle? Say your answer to the video now. You should have said the height is 8.2. So we can actually ignore this number here. That's a distraction. We don't need to use that. So we need to do base times height divided by 2. So let's do the base times height first. So 8.2 times 6.3. Let's do the times tables together. 2 times 6. 12, 2 times 3, 6, 8 times 6, That's a harder one. People always forget this one. 48, and 8 times 3, 24. We add the diagonals, we get 6, 6, 11, and 5. And then we need to see where the decimal points go. So we go down from there, left from there, along the diagonal, and that gives 51.66. But that's just the base times the height. What do we still need to do? Say your answer to the video now. We still need to divide that by 2. So we need to do 2 into 51.66. So 51.66 divided by 2. So 2 into 5 is 2 remainder 1. 2 into 11 is 5 remainder 1. 2 into 16 is 8. And 2 into 6 is 3. What have I not done? What have I done wrong there? So your answer to the video. I've missed out the decimal point here. Remember, you need to put that decimal point. So therefore, my final answer is 25.83. And what are the units for area? Say your answer to the video now. You should have said centimeters squared. So to do the rest of this video, you need to know how to find the area of a square, a rectangle, a parallelogram, and a triangle. So let's just quickly go through that. How do you find the area of a square? Say your answer to the video. You should have said base times height. So that would be base of the square times the height of the square. You could also say that's the length squared. So the length squared. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Say your answer to the video. Again, it's base times height or length times width. Base times height or length times width. How do we do the area of a parallelogram? It's also base times height. So base times height or base times perpendicular height, because this here is a right angle. We call that perpendicular when two things are at right angles to each other. And how do you find the area of a triangle? You should have said base times height divided by 2. So let's move on to some shaded area problems. So here's the first example. Pause the video to read the question. Press play once you've read it. You should have now read this question. So firstly, let's just highlight this word here. Calculate the shaded area. So the shaded area is this area which is grey. So it's this area which has been shaded in like a pencil. So I'm just shading it in yellow now, just to make it really clear. But this here is the shaded area. Now I'm going to do this question fully by myself. So the way that I do this question is I think, it's a bigger square and somebody has cut a smaller square out of it. So I started with this big square. And this big square was 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. But then somebody has cut out of it this smaller square, 3 by 3 centimeters, which means my original big square had an area of 5 times 5, which is 25 centimeters squared. But I've cut out of it this smaller square, which has an area of 3 times 3, which is 9 centimeters squared. To find the shaded area, I need to do the bigger area minus the smaller area, because this is a big square, which I have cut out the smaller square from. So it's the area of the big square minus the area of the small square. It's the area of the big square, subtract the area of the small square. So in the end, this becomes 25 minus 9, which is 16 centimeters squared. Let's do an example together. Pause the video and have a go at this question. Press play once you've done it. You should have now done this question. So let's go through it together. So to find the shaded area, we need to do the bigger square minus the smaller square. What's the area of the bigger square? Say your answer to the video now. You should have said 36 because the bigger square is 6 times 6. So the area is 6 times 6. What are the units of that area? Say your answer to the video now. Now you may have said by mistake centimeters squared, but actually you should have said meters squared because all units here are in meters. What's the area of the smaller square here? Say your answer to the video. You should have said 16 because it's a 4 by 4 square. So its area is 4 times 4, which is 16. So we have to do 36 minus 16, which is 20 meters squared. Now, all of my examples are going to do the same thing. We're going to have a bigger shape and there's going to be a smaller shape cut out of it. So every time we're going to do the same thing, just with different shapes. So here's the next example. I'm going to do this one fully by myself. So I have the big shape, which is the rectangle. So I have this big rectangle. It's got a height of 8 and a width of 7. And I need to cut from that this triangle here. That triangle has a base of 4 and a height of 6. So I'm going to work out the area of each shape individually. So the area of this rectangle, so it's a rectangle, so it's base times height, 7 times 8, which is 56 meters squared. The area of this triangle, so it's a triangle, so I need to do base times height over 2. So that is base 4 times height 6 over 2, which is 24 over 2, which is 12 meters squared. So altogether, shaded area will be 56 minus 12, which is 44 meters squared. You're going to try a similar example now. Pause the video and have a go at this question. Press play once you've done it. You should have now done this question. So we're trying to find the shaded area. Make sure that you've noticed all units are in millimeters. So that's going to make a difference to our units. So here we've got the rectangle, and we're going to minus from it the triangle. What's the area of the rectangle here? It's got a base of 7, a height of 9. Say your answer to the video now. The area of the rectangle is 9 times 7, which is 63 millimeters squared. What's the area of the triangle? The triangle's got a base of 6 and a height of 8. Say your answer to the video now. Well, the area of the triangle is base times height over 2. That's 48 over 2, which is 24 millimeters squared. So what's the last step we need to do to find the shaded area? Say your answer now. We need to do 63 minus 24, which is 39 millimeters squared. Let's do some more examples. Here's the next example. Pause the video to read it, press play once you've read it. You should have now read this example, so I'm going to do it fully by myself. So we have the rectangle, which is a 9 by 6, and we are cutting out from that this parallelogram here. And the parallelogram has a base of 4 and a perpendicular height of 6. So the area of the rectangle is 6 times 9, which is 54 centimeters squared. The area of the parallelogram is base times height, 4 times 6, which is 24 centimeters squared, which means the shaded area will be the area of the rectangle minus the area of the parallelogram, which leaves us with 30 centimeters squared. You're going to try an example now. Pause the video to try this question. Press play once you've done it. You should have now tried this question. Let's go through it. Mark your work as we go through it. So we've got the rectangle, which is a 9 by 7, and we're minusing from that this parallelogram here, which is a 6 with a height of 8. What's the area of the rectangle? Say your answer to the video now. The area of the rectangle is 9 times 7, which is 63. What's the area of the parallelogram? Say your answer to the video now. Should have said 6 times 8, which is 48. So we now need to find the difference, 63 minus 48, which is 15. And what will the units be in this question? Say your answer to the video. Here the units are centimeters squared, because it tells you the units are in centimeters. Let's go to some slightly more complicated examples. So I'm going to do this example fully by myself. So pause the video to read the question, press play once you've read it. You should have now read this question. So I need to calculate the shaded area, but this time I've got the big rectangle, and then I'm cutting out of it 2 smaller rectangles, this one and this one. Now both of those happen to be squares, but hopefully, as you know, a square is a type of rectangle. So it's okay to call them rectangles as well. So this is 7 by 5, this is 3 by 3, and this is 1 by 1. So the area of this rectangle is 7 times 5, which is 35 meters squared. The area of this square is 3 times 3, or 3 squared, which is 9 meters squared. And the area of this square is 1 times 1, which is 1 squared, which is 1 meter squared. So I now need to do big rectangle minus that square, which leaves me altogether with 25 meters squared. You're going to try an example now. Pause the video and try this example. Press play once you're ready. You should have now done this example. So firstly, I just want to highlight, what are these lines here that I've just shaded in yellow? What do those lines mean? Say your answer to the video now. Those little dashes mean that those sides are the same length. For example, if I were to draw a triangle, do a little dash on each line, that means all 3 sides of the triangle are the same length. If I do a shape like this and put these lines there, that means those 2 sides of that shape are the same length, which makes this actually a square, because these are right angles, so these 2 sides must be the same as well. So those little shapes in here are actually squares. So this, this, and this are little squares. So what I'm doing all together is I've got the parallelogram, which has a base of 3 and a height of 5. And I'm minusing from that this little square, and also this little square, and also this little square. And each of those is a 1 by 1. So what's the area of this parallelogram? Say your answer to the video. You should have said 5 times 3, which is 15 millimeters squared, because all units are in millimeters. This is a square 1 by 1. So that is 1 squared, which is 1. This one's also 1 squared, which is 1. And this one's also 1 squared, which is 1. So therefore I need to do 15 minus 1 minus 1 minus 1, which leaves me 12 millimeters squared. This is the final example I'm going to do completely by myself. Pause the video to read the question. Press play once you've read it. You should have now read this question. So what I've got here is a rectangle, base 7, height 4, and I'm minusing from that this triangle, which is a 4, 3, and then I'm minusing from that this one, which has got those little dashes again, which means this side is 2 and also this side is 2, because those little dashes, which I'm highlighting in yellow, show me that those 2 sides are the same length. So I'm going to work out the area of each shape individually. This one is 7 times 4, which is 28 centimeters squared. This one is 3 times 4 over 2. It's a triangle. That's 12 over 2, which is 6. And this one is 2 times 2 over 2, which is 4 over 2, which is 2. So I need to do the big shape minus the triangle that's been cut out, minus the other triangle that's been cut out, leaving me altogether with 20 centimeters squared. Please now try this example yourself. Pause the video while you try it. Press play once you're ready. You should have now tried this example. Let's go through it together. Please mark your work as we go through it. So we have this rectangle, which is a 9 by 3. We need to minus from that this 2 by 2. We need to minus from it this one, and we need to minus from it this one, because all of those triangles have been cut out. So the area of this rectangle is what? Say your answer to the video now. You should have said 27. What's the area of this triangle over here? Say your answer to the video now. Well, it's base times height over 2, which leaves us with 2. So this one is also the same triangle, so it must also be 2. And this one's also the same triangle, so it must also be 2. So the shaded area will be the rectangle minus one of the triangles minus the other triangle minus the third triangle, leaving you all together 21. And what will the units be here? Say your answer to the video now. The units here are centimeters squared, because it says all units are in centimeters. Pause the video to try these 4 examples yourself. Press play once you've done them. You should have now done these 4 examples completely by yourself. Let's go through them. Please mark your work as we go through them. So for the first one, we have a rectangle, which is 6 by 9, and we're minusing from it a 2 by 7, and we're also minusing another 2 by 7. So we've got this rectangle, which is 54 area minus 14 minus 14. So that will be 26, and it says all units are in meters, so 26 meters squared. Please mark your work. Next one, so we have the rectangle, which is a 3 by 5, and we need to minus from that rectangle this parallelogram, which is base of 2 and height of 2. So the area of the rectangle is 15. The area of the parallelogram is 2 times 2, which is 4. So that leaves us with 11 meters squared. For the next one, we have the rectangle minus the triangle. The rectangle is a 4 times 5. The triangle is a 3 and 2. So the area of the rectangle is 5 times 4, which is 20. The area of the triangle is 3 times 2 divided by 2. So that's 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So we end up with 17 meters squared. And finally, we have the rectangle minus this triangle minus this triangle. The rectangle is a 4 by 7. The triangle is a 3 by 4. And this triangle is a 2 by 2. So the area of the big rectangle is 7 times 4, which is 28. The area of the bigger triangle, 3 times 4 is 12 divided by 2 is 6. And the area of the smaller triangle, 2 times 2 is 4 divided by 2 is 2. 28 minus 6 minus 2 leaves us with 20 meters squared. You've now learned how to find the shaded area when one shape is cut out from another. I hope this video was useful. Please like and subscribe for more videos on Key Stage 3 Maths.